Okay, we are on. Hello, everyone.
Hello, Giannis.
Hello.
Nice to be
Hello,
here.
dear people. Thank you for watching this show. And today with me, I have uh, two very beautiful people, Sandra Ray and Marcus Ray. Thank you both for joining for this interview.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you
us.
for having us.
So, Sandra Ray, the spiritual teacher, author, the world of breathwork would call you probably the mother of rebirthing breathwork, founded by late Leonard Dorr, fabulous teacher. Also, Marcus Ray, painter and author, is a presenter of the profound modern psychological and spiritual scripture, Course in Miracles. Marcus, you're also the teacher of the Course in Miracles. And this talk will be basically about this new concept, which for us here in Latvia, for some people might be new, but it really has been around for many years. The book is called A Course in Miracles, and it's really pretty thick and heavy.
Yeah.
And yeah, from my perspective, I can say that going through this book and through these teachings, I could see that at first it reminded me of a kind of scripts from religious books. But going deeper, I realized that it has nothing to do with religion, but rather with deep spiritual scripture and deep spiritual stuff. And since Marcus, you are a teacher in Course in Miracles, maybe you can tell a bit more about how you got to Course in Miracles, this lineage, and what was your experience?
Oh, okay. Well, that's very simple. I did a breath work, a rebirthing training with Sandra Ray in 1985 called the Loving Relationships Training. And she mentioned in that training this book called A Course in Miracles. And she referred to it as the most important book in 2000 years. And that really got my attention. So I went out at that time, the book was in 3 separate volumes. So it was big, you know. You think it's big now. It was big, really big back then because you had the text, the workbook, and the teacher's manual in 3 separate books. So the stack of books was about this high, right? And then finally they put it in 1 volume with thinner paper. So anyhow, that's how I came to it. Then I studied it for a number of years, 3 or 4 years. And then I knew that this was my kind of my spiritual sadhana or my practice. And I wanted to go a little step farther. And I was in a bookstore and I saw this audio tape on bringing A Course in Miracles into application by Tara Singh. And I bought the tape, I listened to it. I was really struck by the clarity of what he was saying. So then I called his foundation and they told me about a workshop he was giving not too far from me. So I went to the workshop, and from there, it was a done deal. I knew he was my teacher with the Course in Miracles. So for 17 years, I studied with Tara Singh. And Tara Singh had received, if you want to call it, the knowledge from this actual scribe. Dr. Helen Schuckman was the scribe of the Course in Miracles, and she was also Tara Singh's teacher. So he kind of got it directly from the source, you know, and then I felt I was getting the energy from him. So that's my background with the Course. It was kind of miraculous even how it came to me. You know, Sandra said that thing in the training, and I got the book, and then I wasn't even really looking for the audio tape in the bookstore. It's one of those things where it kind of falls off the shelf, you know, and into your lap. And I saw it, and then it was, you know, my relationship with Tara Singh was one of the greatest in my whole life. So, and then he made a lot of things clear to me what the Course was.
The book, the name of this book, A Course in Miracles, and One of the sentences I read was that you are entitled to miracles because of what you are.
Mm-hmm.
And I must really say that sometimes people don't really believe in miracles anymore. Why is that? What do you think?
Mm.
Ah, well, I think people maybe asked for a miracle and they didn't get it, so they gave up. And the reason they didn't get the miracle that they asked for is because they hadn't cleared their subconscious of blocks to receiving the miracle. And so then they gave up, I think. And so what's so good about the Course in Miracles is it's not a religion; it's a correction of religion, if anything, and it does handle the blocks that we have to receiving miracles. And a lot of it is about how we use the ego to prevent ourselves from having that kind of a miracle in our life. And so I think people gave up and they didn't know how to create miracles, and they don't know how to clear themselves so they can have the miracle. So it does require that we clear ourselves, that we have the right frame of mind. And that's what the Course does. It gets you in the right frame of mind so that you can have miracles. And it helps you clear out your ego. And of course, we're doing the same in breath work. We're clearing out the ego, which is a false self that we made up to compete with God, I mean, to replace God. And we've been stuck in our ego. And when you're in your ego, you can't have miracles. And the problem is people are addicted to their ego. They're addicted to the false self that they made up. And they have thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'm wrong, I'm bad. And, and we know how to clear those thoughts in breath work. And so that you can have miracles.
A lot of people sometimes say that the ego must be destroyed. So it feels kind of like an aggressive way to deal with yourself. Is there a more gentle way how to dissolve the ego? And can you talk about that more?
Well, you know, this teacher of my teacher, Krishnamurti, talked about transcending thought. And he said a lot of the problems of the world are within our thought system. And so he talked about transcending thought, not destroying it, because someone asked him, well, you know, what would it be like if I had no thought? And he said, well, don't be ridiculous. You need your thought to drive your car and find your plane in the airport. And so there is a function of thought. And I think the Course would agree with that. There's a function that the ego plays in us being in a body, being in this world, being in this dimension. But that's not the place of our highest identity. You know, like the Course talks about yourself, your God-created self, in contrast to your self that you made up. And so this whole shift out of the self you made up with all its problems and all its conflicts and all its angers and all its insecurities, there's this self you made up. Then there's this self God created, which is transcendent of that self you made up, that doesn't have all the problems. So the miracle would be a shift into an awareness of this self God created. Now, when you say God, you know, I know in Latvia, you know, you guys were maybe you were atheists for a long while, you know, because of the Soviet rule. That's okay. You can actually be an atheist and study A Course in Miracles, because it's really more of a mind training. And when it uses the word God, it's more like a universal life force. It's not a dogma of religion, you know, that has a lot of other attachments to it. The Course just defines God as this all-pervasive life force that's benevolent to your good, you know. And so I think it's a breath of fresh air. It's not a religion. It's really a correction of religion, and it restores our faith in a higher power, a higher life force that's benevolent to our happiness, our good, our joy, you know, that sort of thing.
And it is kind of a training in how to be happy in a way.
Yeah.
And so it lays it out. And every lesson you get, which is 365 lessons, one lesson a day, every lesson you get is a beautiful statement. It is like a miracle itself. It's a beautiful statement that you meditate on throughout the day, and it makes you happy. It really does. And so the first part of the workbook, there's the workbook, which are the lessons, and then there's the text, which is more philosophy. The first part of the workbook kind of undoes your old mind, and then the last part of the workbook where you claim who you really are, your real self, your true self, your divine self. What does that?
Well, I think,
section?
section 2 is lesson 221 through the end, and the undoing part is lessons 1 through 220. So, but I think this point of the ego that you asked me about, it's not about killing the ego, and you're right, it's a gentle process. But the Course is very clear of how devious this ego is, and not in your best interest. So it does present the ego in its kind of down and dirty quality. It gets you to look at that, to see exactly what this ego self is. It's based on fear, it's based on scarcity, it's based on competition, guilt and punishment and attack and anger. So it really gets you to see the ego. And, we all have one. And unless we're like an ascended master and we've already transcended, we all have an ego to deal with. So the Course helps us deal with that, helps us unravel it. I would like the word unravel better than kill, because you still need your ego to live in a body. You got to feed yourself, you got to drive your car, you have to go to work, you have to catch your plane. You still need that part of your mind to function at that level. But then we take some time of our life to give attention to this higher quality in ourselves. And that's what the Course in Miracles does. And that's the miracle. The miracle is really a shift in our perception. It's not, and you could say, well, it's supernatural, but it is supernatural in that we've been perceiving a certain way for a long time. And in order to change our mind, we do need this energy from another source, which is supernatural, to change our mind, because we're very stubborn beings. We have these thoughts that we've been thinking for a long time, and they might not all be positive for our best interest. So we've got to face those and change them. And that the Course in Miracles would define as a miracle.
Exactly. What the science says, we have average 50 to 60,000 thoughts a day.
Yeah, right.
Maybe more. Probably
more. And how much from them are really productive in a way that's leading us towards our goal. And I love the sentence in the Course in Miracles book that says that just a miracle is a correction. And I love the statement, like as you described, just a correction. It leads us just towards a more healthy and easy way.
One thing I also like about the Course is it discusses healing and relationships a lot. So that's kind of the main thing I got out of it, besides clearing your subconscious and your ego, is how to have a holy relationship. And I think that most people aren't experiencing that. They're experiencing some kind of a hell in their relationships. So the Course tells you how to shift from a special relationship that's filled with anger and guilt and fear to a holy relationship where you are complete and whole, and you get together with someone else who's complete and whole, and then you share the light with the world. That's called a holy relationship. And an unholy relationship is where you think you're lacking something and you need to find it in someone else, then you join with them and rip them off, and then you leave. That's the unholy relationship. And so the Course tells a lot in the text about how to go from an unholy relationship to a holy relationship. And it also covers a lot about healing, spiritual healing. And, I think that's really wonderful. We are going to cover this in the training. We have a whole section on healing according to the Course in Miracles, and we're going to have a whole section on relationships according to the Course in Miracles.
Yeah, I would totally agree that, to my knowledge, there are a lot of people right now out there, also couples, that really need a miracle
Yes.
in their relationship, because now after several years, they're waking up and suddenly realizing that, and asking themselves, like, who is this person in this relationship I'm with? Because now, due to the situation we have, we tend to spend a lot more time together and get to know each other more. And also our subconscious comes up a lot more. And many couples run into fear of what's going to be next, and so on. What can you tell about fear from the Course in Miracles perspective?
Yeah. Well, the Course is very clear about fear, and it would say that that's kind of the basis of the ego, is fear. And this is normal. Normal in the sense that we all have some fear that we need to face and we need to undo. And this is kind of the battle cry of the ego. It makes its decisions based on fear. But the Course says that that's not your reality. Your reality is love. It says there are only really two emotions we have to deal with here. Are we coming from a place of fear, or are we coming from a place of love? And so it says in the introduction, this is a Course in Miracles. It's a required course. It's a mind training. And the purpose of it is to remove the blocks to the awareness of love. And those blocks would invariably be something that's fear, So when you really examine the ego, you see that almost every decision it makes has this tinge of fear behind it. Even if you make, the best of plans, sometimes you really go deeply into examining your plans, and you can find, well, you're making them based on, oh, well, I'm afraid this might happen, so I better do it this way. So it's still kind of motivated by fear. So we have to examine the nature of fear. How much are we being motivated by fear? And look at that. And the miracle is, big job of the miracle is to undo our fear.
Yeah, and the holy instant is when you move from fear to love. That's called the holy instant. And the whole Course is about that, moving from fear to love. Right?
For instance, we teach in our relationships training, a lot of people in relationships experience conflict and anger. And this is not that productive. And actually, it's destructive. When people break up, it's usually that their level of resentment and anger and conflict gets so high they can't stand it anymore, so they break up. But now we look at, well, what's underneath the anger and the conflict and the resentment? It's usually some codependent agreement where you're in agreement with someone else for something that you getting your payoff and they're getting their payoff, but neither of them serve your best interest. And then underneath that is the fear of losing that neurotic benefit. So when you're not getting your need met, you get angry, but it's really underneath that is the fear. So fear is something that we all have to look at. And, many of us came from very modest backgrounds financially. So there is this fear of not having enough, this fear of lack. And that's a very common fear people have, that, oh, life won't take care of them. There won't be enough. There won't be enough money. There won't be enough love. There won't be enough resources. So this fear of lack is very basic in the human psyche. So all these issues somewhere are dealt with in A Course in Miracles. So that's what's so wonderful about it. You know, when I heard Sandra talk about it for the first time, she said, all the answers are in there, you know, and, you know, you think that's a pretty broad statement to make that. But then the more you study the Course and you see the depth of it and how broad it is, it's pretty true. I mean, the Course pretty much covers any human problem you could possibly have in there, you know? So.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, just looking from the perspective how in what script it's been written, and like really going through ego, through love, fear, communication, healing and wholeness, the guide to salvation, communication, ego, body. It's truly remarkable, and I really I have this book. I mean, I think like for the last 3 years, and I must say I haven't really gone through it completely. But what I do is just sometimes like, okay, well, what's for today, and just like open up a page and like, okay, I'm just gonna read this chapter or this page, and truly like I can't read more than maybe like you know a couple sentences, and then it takes a couple hours to digest it, because it's written in a really deep language, but also it's so profound on every section of life that is important and incredible that Dr. Shukman has channeled it in this very particular way, and it's really an incredible work. Talking about the miracles, so Sandra, can you tell a bit more about how could people get miracles in life more consciously?
Well, you know, what we do in our spiritual life is we do a lot of breathing and breath work. And we used to call it rebirthing, and now we call it liberation breathing, because you do get liberated from your ego. You get liberated from your negativity. And so for me, I know that's one way that I've had more miracles in my life, is to consistently stick with breath work as a spiritual path. That's helped me to have more miracles in my life. And in fact, the first miracle I had with breath work way back in 1974, when we started, is I had had a pain in my body for 13 years, which started when my father died. And I knew it was psychosomatic because it would move around, but I couldn't get rid of it. And in my first 2 breath sessions, it disappeared forever. You know, so that was a big miracle for me after 13 years of pain. So I had a miracle right away through breath work. And I see that all the time. We offer breath work to the people, and in the training, we offer it. Everyone will lie down and breathe in their own space, and we can see them and we guide them. We do a guided meditation so they feel really safe. And then, of course, we have private rebirthing available if they want a private session, and you give that too. So I'm really happy to say that people are having miracles through the breath work, and they're letting go of what's in the way of having a miracle. That's what
Totally agree with that. I mean, I can remember myself like 4 years ago. It was 2016 October, as I was lying on my mat in Bali. And I just graduated from the rebirthing facilitator training, and I had this incredibly bright thought that something big is about to change. And at that time, I was still in the military, and that was the breath work. This session I had on my own. That I just woke up, and this very clear thought came that like I'm done. That's it. And I need to step out of this out of the army. And that was one miracle, because I was like asking myself, the mind was screaming and asking me, so what you gonna do? I mean, so telling air
immediately.
What are you going to do if you leave the military?
Right. And I was asking really in a way for a miracle. So I said that like, okay, I was familiar with Babaji by then. Like, okay, well, is there something that's going to happen to me? I trust you, just guide me. And sure enough, and I went on and I became a rebirthing facilitator for people. And
that's a miracle.
the same was like a month later, because I had, after years of being in the military, I had this aching back pain, lower back pain. And it didn't really go away. I was doing physiotherapy and massages and all the right stuff.
Mhm.
After, like, I remember this breathwork session where I had this incredible heat in my lower back pain. It's like, it was incredibly like hot, and I was sweating. I was like, "Whoa, what was that?" And like, I'm in some deep process. And after the session, I woke up and it was just, the pain was gone, like, immediately.
Oh yeah, well, that's a miracle,
So,
too, right? Yeah,
and I have no doubt about miracles anymore. That's for sure. And that's
right.
why. And that's why I'm very happy to invite you digitally to Latvia with your new training, Miracles for You.
Uh-huh.
Happy to announce it for those who are watching this. So it's going to be from the 16th to the 18th of October. And I'm really happy that you both will teach your course. And maybe you can talk a little bit more what we're going to go into these 3 days, because I know it's really packed with really good content. And maybe you walk us through the days, what we
Yeah.
cover. I'm really excited about, Marcus, about your lectures on Course in Miracles, and also your both guided liberation breathing sessions. Can you tell us more about what we're going to go specifically into these days?
Well, there are two modules on Friday, and the modules are an hour and a half long, and we have a half an hour break in between. So there's a teaching module Friday night, and usually we do our introductions, and we get clear with people that their thoughts are what we're working with. We're working with their mind, and they have to get clear that their thoughts make up or create their reality. So if they want to have a change out there in their external world, their life, they have to look at the mental part first and change their thoughts before it can change out in their external world. So this is a very big part of the first module. We introduce people to the course and the fact that the course is a mind training. And this is the kind of work we do. Even with the breath work, we expose people to some of maybe their most negative thoughts they have to try to clear them. So we talk about that, the first module. Then we do a breathing module, and the breathing looks like everyone lies down wherever they are, and then we guide them through like an hour, a little bit more, hour and 20-minute breathe, and we have a little sharing at the end. So whatever they're bringing up in our teaching modules to clear, whatever the subject is, and usually stuff comes up for people during those lectures, that's what they're going to breathe out in the session. So it's kind of a good balance between talking and breathing, and then we talk a little more, then we breathe again. So it's a good balance between those two.
And so Friday we look at their deep thoughts they have about themselves, called personal lies and so on. Saturday, we're going to look more on the subject of what the course is about, and in the first module and in the later module, it's going to be about healing, spiritual healing, and everybody can work on something that's going on in their body they want to change. And usually people have pain. Some people actually have a diagnosis, so they pick whatever they want to work on, and we teach them how to process it and how to clear it, using the principles of the Course in Miracles. It's nothing that I learned in medicine. I was a nurse for 14 years. It's nothing to do with medicine. It's spiritual healing. And then on Sunday, we look more into the issue of relationships. We have a whole section on that, what the Course says about the unholy and the holy relationship. And we do breathing every day at the end of the day. So. Yeah,
and I give some lectures as well on the course itself. I give 3 lectures during this this whole weekend, And as far as what I'm going to say, I can't tell you because I don't know what I'm going to say. You know, there's a lesson in the Course in Miracles. It says the Holy Spirit looks through me today. The Holy Spirit speaks through me today. So I try to just make myself as empty as I can, and then whatever comes to me is what I share. And usually it's what people need to hear, because if I'm really in tune with the audience, with the people there, I'm going to be telling them or sharing with them the things that I pick up on that they need to hear, you know, or want to hear. So it's a spontaneous kind of an action when I share about the Course in Miracles. I never have notes. I never plan it. It always has a continuity. It always has a nice flow. So I really feel fortunate that I kind of learned this from my teacher, Tara Singh. That's how he delivered his lectures. And you know, he never pretended to be quote unquote channeling anything. He never said, "Oh well, Jesus spoke to me," or anything like that. He just got himself in this place of stillness and silence, and then whatever, you know, he received to give is what he talked about. And there was no rocket science in it, and no special like thing like, oh, he was doing anything special, he was some special channel of some entity. No, it was just, he was still, he was quiet, and he was in touch with his own truth, and that's what he talked about. And it always related to what the Course was saying. So that's kind of how a style I've adopted from my teacher, and I think it's a good one. And it's a good balance, because Sandra loves to teach with the script, and she's very good at that. And I kind of like a more spontaneous delivery. So her balance between certain subjects we need to cover, we have to cover, she covers them. And then I give a lecture on the Course, which is a little more open-ended and more spontaneous. So we have a good balance between both of us.
Right.
I'm sure you're a perfect balance for this, because also, as Mahavatar Harakan Babaji has said, that Marcus is my humbleness and my voice. So together, they're my love.
Probably hear a little bit about Babaji during this weekend, even though it's on the Course in Miracles.
We do mention him.
Yeah.
Very good. Of course, I agree with you, Marcus, what you said about you can't possibly talk about that thick book in like 3 days. But just to quickly recap on what we're going to cover, you're going to find the schedule down below in the notes. So the first day, as you said, we'll go a little bit into mind map, into also metaphysics, personal life, and we'll have the liberation breathing session. The second day, about forgiveness and the relationship, as I understood, and also we'll have a liberation breathing session at the end. Certainly, Marcus will give his first lecture on part 1 from the Course in Miracles, and on Sunday we're going to talk about spiritual healing, and Marcus is going to talk about the second part of the Course in Miracles. Are you going to talk about the immortality and overcoming the death urge?
If you would like us to, sure.
Yeah, I usually cover that.
We usually cover that.
It's important.
This is really like kind of sensitive topic for a lot of people, but I do believe that in this context, it's important to talk about. So
yeah, now that one of the proponents of physical immortality, Leonard Orr, has passed away, it's even more touchy.
Indeed.
But we have answers to that. We can address that.
Well, yeah. I think we should cover that. I actually got the index once, and I looked up all the verses on death that they cover, that Jesus covers in the Course in Miracles, and I wrote them down. So it is an issue that he does cover.
Yeah, immortality and the Course in Miracles go hand in hand, and actually they strengthen one another. And it's not exactly what you would think, you know. It's, if you see it properly, if you see it in the right order of how it's being laid out, the Course in Miracles is totally consistent with you staying in your body as long as you want to, as long as you're doing your divine mission, you know. you're serving humanity, you're uplifting yourself and those around you, and this is a good thing. And I think the Christ would want you to stay in a body doing that as long as you can. And so this supports a lot of our teachings on longevity, life extension,
Yes.
having a purpose, having a divine purpose. So, I mean, it's all consistent.
Yeah, we will cover that.
And we'll cover that.
Yeah. It's interesting how it binds together with this concept that it's called resilience, and basically it's the same concept, talking about tactics and techniques, like using vision, like using breathing, different techniques like forgiveness, sleep, rest, and so on. I mean, it's just a modern perspective of what's already in the ancient scripts, isn't it? And I believe you will also cover these topics. So everybody, I'm really inviting you to join this fabulous 3-day immersion course, Miracles for You, which is going to be from the 16th to the 18th of October. And also, as I heard a little bit from you, Marcus, you're gonna give a little bonus to everyone who's participating, a PDF from your new book. Can you talk about your new book a little bit?
Well, I wrote this book because, first of all, I was very moved in the 17 years I spent with Tara Singh. And I want to just kind of pay homage to him, because any clarity I would have about the Course in Miracles would have come from my relationship with him. He was my teacher. He was my Course in Miracles master. And he never set himself up on a pedestal. He never made himself a quote guru, but he had the clarity, he had the vision, he had the energy around him that blessed my life, basically. So I actually wrote 2 books on the Course. One was about my relationship with him. I call it Miracles with My Master, Tara Singh. So that book is out there on Amazon. And that's more of my in-person encounters with Tara Singh and the lessons that he was teaching me personally. But then I wrote a book, which is kind of my summation of what I received from Tara Singh, that he gave me the clarity to receive from the Course in Miracles. And I call this book,
The Second Coming.
Coming, You Are the Christ. And now that's a pretty bold statement to say, well, you are the Christ. But this is what Tara Singh brought us to see, that the study of the Course in Miracles is an ascension process where we undo the self we made up. And then this self God created emerges in our awareness. And well, what is that self God created? Well, another word for that is the Christ. So when you are purely what God created you to be, you're at that spiritual evolutionary level that a person like Jesus would be, or a person like the Buddha would be, or a person like Muhammad would be. You know, all these ascended masters, Mother Teresa, you know, they've evolved spiritually enough that they're in this self that God created, and that is the Christ. It's not like there's no monopoly on it. In other words, we all have that potential within us to rise to that. So the second coming is the Course in Miracles giving us a means to rise through our levels of being to ascend into our Christ self. So when that happens, that's the second coming. And the second coming is very well laid out, that process, in the Course in Miracles. So we can all become our true self. We can all rise to be our Christ self in this lifetime. And thank goodness we have a roadmap to do it. And it's called the Course in Miracles. So
thank God
that book is about, and everybody who takes the course, they'll either, you know, they can get I can even send you some hard copies, but we can also make sure they have access to the ebook copy. That would be the easiest. Yeah.
Thank you. And thank God you're teaching this stuff, because someone needs to do it at the end. And who would do it better than you
Well,
both who
of
are
course, it
having.
can be overwhelming. You know, it's like you said, it's a thick book. It can be overwhelming.
But still, I mean, this is something that you can give a good perspective on, and then afterwards people can do their own work. And
Yeah.
I think this is a very beautiful opportunity for everyone who wants to go deeper into these miracles. So one more time, I invite everyone to join for this fantastic weekend workshop. And you will find the sign up link below this video. And Sandra and Marcus, thank you very much for this amazing interview. I'm really looking forward to see you.
Okay.
This time in the digital world, online, but I hope in some time we're gonna meet in person again.
Yeah,
we will for sure. The next time I need dental work, I'll be there. The dental work I received in Latvia was the best in the world I've ever had.
Yeah,
and
it was not
you
expensive.
arranged it for me, and it was not to bring anything down, but it was a miracle. That was a miracle happening.
Indeed, because to book a specialist in that short time, as you both were arriving for the relationships training and organizing this like medical surgeon that
threaded the needle, boy.
You usually wait like 2 months in the row to get to such it's really incredible, and it's a miracle. So I do believe in miracles, and I hope you, the listeners and viewers, do too. If not, this is the masterclass you want to attain.
Oh, thank you. We look forward to it so much.
Thank you, Marcus. Thank you, Sandra. And thank you, all the viewers. And we see each other in the workshop.
Yeah, our pleasure.
Thank you.